Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television, and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Hello, Colton. How you doing?
Thank you. That was a very warm welcome. I appreciate that. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. Can't complain.
Right on, right on. All right, well, a couple announcements before we get going for this week. First of which is our second bonus episode covering the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2 is now available to listen to as a regular episode. It is up on our regular feed for all of our listeners to get onto that 3-hour Marvel extravaganza. It's a good time. It's long, but it's a good time. It's worth the investment, certainly, if you're in for the ride of revisiting that whole Marvel Cinematic Universe before Infinity War comes out in a couple weeks' time. And on that note, we'll be putting up Phase 3 very shortly. Actually, might already be up by the time this goes out as a regular episode. So just keep your eyes peeled on our socials, and we'll have some information available for that. This week, we are talking A Quiet Place.
Yeah, man.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, and we'll have some things to say on it later. Do you have a fun fact prepared for us this week?
Oh, man. Totally forgot about my fun fact.
Oh, caught you off guard, huh?
Yeah, I forgot.
All right. Well, I'll forgive you this time, but I think next time we record, maybe you'll have someone for us. Does that
I will certainly have. I might double down. I might have 2 fun facts.
Okay, you're going to make up for lost time. All right. Well, that works for me. You ready to get to the news for this week, then?
Let's do it.
All right, perfect. So we're going to start off on a little bit of a sad note. The founder or co-founder of Studio Ghibli, Isao Takahata, has passed away at age 82. He's responsible for films like Grave of the Fireflies, The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which I know you had kind of watched or started watching. I think you talked about it a little while back.
Still haven't finished it. I did pick up Grave of the Fireflies, though. I haven't watched it yet either. But
yeah, I bought it myself, and in the same boat. I have not watched it yet, but I saw this news, and I said, yeah, you know what I mean? I wanted to buy these movies anyway, so that's definitely a pretty good reason to get on that. So maybe we'll have more to talk about, in the future. Certainly about his movies specifically, and maybe some other Studio Ghibli movies as we. Well, they say you're certainly further along, but I'm trying to work my way through the whole backlog of entries as well. So sad to hear that he died. 82. It says that he died from lung cancer. So, like I said, sad news, but I think he leaves behind a pretty strong legacy from what I can gather. So we'll leave it at that and talk about a trailer for a movie called The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. So I don't know how much you know about this project, and I'll give a little bit more background, but before we do that, I was curious about your reactions to just the trailer.
Oh, I thought it looked great. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, great cast. Adam Driver, Jonathan Pryce, Stellan Skarsgård, Olga Kurylenko, and it's directed by Terry Gilliam. So there is a backstory to this, a pretty ridiculous backstory, actually. So it's a movie that tells the story of a deluded old man who believes he is Don Quixote, the famous literary character, and he mistakes Adam Driver's character Toby, who is an advertising executive, as his trusty squire Sancho Panza, and then they embark on this crazy journey that jumps back and forth in time between kind of the modern day and the 17th century. So it sounds like a really fun movie. But I think the interesting thing about this movie is that it has been technically in production for 17 years.
What?
So pre-production of this movie started in 1998 with Jean Rochefort as Don Quixote, Johnny Depp as Toby, and Vanessa Paradis as the female lead. Shooting actually began in 2000 on this, but they ran into so many problems that they basically shut production down. Sets and equipment got destroyed by flooding. The main actor, Jean Rochefort, had illness issues, and so he couldn't film for a lot of it. They couldn't get insurance for the production, and then basically, it was just this whole cavalcade of bad things happening, and they said, fuck it, we're not doing it anymore. And then they've since tried to make this multiple times. And Terry Gilliam himself has been attached the whole time, so it's basically kind of Terry Gilliam's baby. He's been trying to get this thing made for years and years and years and years. There's been tons of actors that have been kind of attached in it. Robert Duvall, John Hurt at one point, Ewan McGregor, Jack O'Connell. So it's finally happening. It's finished filming, and it is coming later this year to debut. Finally, after nearly 20 years of production hell, it is finally on its way, and I agree that it looks pretty awesome. So I think that's a pretty remarkable story. I figured that was worth mentioning. Like I said, I didn't know how much you knew about that. I think I'd kind of heard bits and pieces of it, but I didn't realize it was quite that severe. So
yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Me too.
Yeah, we got some more trailers, actually quite a few more trailers that we were going to talk about. First of which is the first Purge, the fourth Purge movie and the first prequel. I think that when you start running out of ideas with the horror franchises, you start making prequels. I'm pretty sure they did it with like Paranormal Activity and Hellraiser and all those things. Like, when you can't think of a way to progress forward, you just go backward. And usually the quality follows the same trend.
Have you followed any of the Purge movies?
You know what? I've only seen the first one, if we're being entirely honest. I've heard that the second one, I think it's Purge Anarchy, is a lot better than the first one because I thought the first one sucked. I thought it was a pretty ridiculous waste of it's a ridiculous concept, but it's a fun concept that I feel like could make for a good horror movie. And the first one basically took this whole idea of, let's have a movie where murder is legal on one day, and then we're going to set a movie entirely within one household. And I'm like, that seems like a low-budget decision, which it was. And then the second one, I think they opened it up a bit and had, they kind of followed, I think Frank Grillo is the main character. He's Crossbones from Winter Soldier and Civil War, and I think it kind of follows him as he goes out and about, and goes about his murder spree during the Purge. So I think at least they opened it up a bit with the second one. The third one I think was election year. I don't know anything about that. I kind of gave up a while ago. But I did watch the trailer for this one, so that's kind of what I'm going off of for this one. It's got Marissa Tomei in it. I guess she needed the paycheck, so good for her. Other than that, I really don't have much to offer. I'm not impressed by what I've seen so far.
No.
How about you?
No. I won't. I have no. I don't think I'll go see this one. I don't think I'll probably ever see this one.
Not even a movie pass?
I don't think I'll movie pass it either. I don't know. There's probably going to be better things to watch when that's out.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, there's got to be something coming out like around the same time that we'll watch instead of this.
Unless we have an overwhelming push from our audience to go cover this movie. So
okay, here I'll say if the Rotten Tomatoes score is greater than, I'll say 75%. If it comes in after a couple hundred views greater than 75%, I'll watch this. That doesn't mean we'll cover it, but I'll watch it in theaters. How's that? That seems like a fair...
Well, at least have an opinion on it, huh?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to go on the stack with the rest of the Purge movies I haven't watched and are very low on my... They're not even on the list, actually. I've got way more shit that I'd rather watch, but... It's coming out July 4th, so if this is your kind of thing, then, more power to you. It's coming out soon, and I hope you enjoy it.
Because we probably won't.
Yes, just don't ask us what we think about it. We might not have a good opinion on it. All right, let's get to something that I think that we're certainly a little bit more excited for, I would hope. Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Yeah,
which we got a new trailer for.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I know we've kind of been, I think kind of apprehensive about the whole idea of a solo movie, but I thought that when we got that, I guess it would have been the teaser trailer, because a couple months back, that to me kind of wiped out a lot of my fears of like, oh no, this looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like a Star Wars movie, and I'm like, I've had a good time with all the Star Wars movies they've put out over the past couple of years, so I am okay with this, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm not wholly sold on Alden Ehrenreich still, as Han Solo, but I'm willing to give him a 2-hour movie to kind of win me over. It's not that I'm diametrically opposed to what he's doing or what I've seen from him so far. It's just...
I'll tell you who I'm sold with.
Who's that?
I'm sold with fucking Lando. I think that dude's going to nail it.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing of, I still haven't seen enough from anyone here that I'm kind of like, oh, that's obviously like they're just crushing it. You know, it doesn't seem like anyone's going for a phoned in, just kind of, let me just do exactly what Harrison Ford did, or let me do exactly what Billy D. Williams did. It seems like at least both characters are going for a bit of a different interpretation, which I think is the way to go.
Certainly.
You know, I think I'd rather have that than a carbon copy or a carbonite copy. No, it looks good. I like the cast. I think that overall it looks fun. I like the cinematography here in the trailer. We got a train heist and some Chewbacca action. You know, we were lacking some good Chewbacca action in The Last Jedi, I thought. So I think that having some more of him here is going to be good. And I'm looking forward to this. I am going to make the bold prediction that this is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to review well. I think it's going to do well. I don't think it's going to be a, you know, rousing success kind of like Force Awakens was, or I guess maybe in Last Jedi, at least in financial aspects of it. But I think that a lot of what I've seen on the internet is, this is crap, no one wants this movie. And I'm like, I don't really know that that's reflective of the general public. I think people like Star Wars, and even Star Wars fans that hate Star Wars now because The Last Jedi ruined their childhood, probably still going to watch this movie.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I stand with it. So
I think it'll be fine. It'll be good. I think I'll enjoy it a lot. I don't know if that necessarily makes it a good movie, but
I'm not expecting the best Star. I'm not expecting anything to surpass Empire Strikes Back. I'm not even expecting it to be better than maybe either Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, personally. No. But I think that as long as it's like mid-tier Star Wars, like that's a pretty good kind of place to be, honestly, because really, once you get past the prequels, it's all pretty good. You know, it's varying levels of good, and you know, sometimes reaching great, I would say. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. It's coming out soon, May 25th. So look forward to it. It's one we will definitely be covering. Let's put it that way. Something that I'm very curious to hear your opinion on is a movie called The Meg.
I'm fucking stoked for The Meg. I think The Meg's going to be awesome. And I would like to cover The Meg on the podcast. As a matter of fact, I was, you know, a movie that I really enjoyed when I was younger, and I haven't seen it in a long time. But did you ever see the Deep Blue Sea?
Sam Jackson one?
Yes,
I have seen Deep Blue Sea. Yes,
I remember watching that when I was younger, and oh, I loved it. I watched it. I mean, a handful of times. It was I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And this kind of you know, it's kind of nostalgic for me. Giant ass fucking shark and these people underwater base and giant squids. I'm all about it. I think it looks fun. I think it looks fun in a way that is not Rampage, which is cool. So
yeah, well, to be fair, I don't think either of us have seen Rampage, so we can't definitively speak for its quality.
I can speak for the quality of the trailars.
Okay,
and I like this trailer a whole lot more than Rampage trailer. So.
Yeah, plus there wasn't a single mention of George in this trailer, so.
What'd you think about this?
I thought this looked. I wouldn't say that it looked good, but it looks campy and ridiculous and goofy enough that I think that it could be a pretty fun movie to kind of. I mean, it's a movie pass kind of movie for me. I don't see myself taking an IMAX visit or something like this. It's even coming out in IMAX, but I think that. I mean, it's got Jason Statham. I just hope that it's as ridiculous as it possibly can be. I know, fuck it, you know, something like this. It's basically all those B movies that was it Asylum, I think, makes. Like, don't they do a bunch of like creature versus creature movies or whatever?
Yeah.
Except this one probably has a budget that's like 50 times the size of those. And, you know, is that a good idea? Probably not, but you know, I respect them for committing to something like this, and I'm willing to give it a whirl just to see what the hell this kind of ends up looking like. So yeah, sure, we can cover it.
Excellent.
August 10th, 2018. It's almost a birthday present for me. Love it.
There you go. Who would have thought?
All right, we've got some news to kind of round out the rest of the movie news for this week. First of which is that the Batgirl movie is back. It's coming back, baby. And Joss Whedon, we knew was booted from the project / left the project, whatever the case may be. He's not involved anymore, but they've hired a writer to take up the pen. Christina Hodson, who wrote the upcoming Transformers spinoff Bumblebee.
Excellent.
And we know that's going to be an all-time classic, so certainly a good start here, I would say. I'm trying to look at what else she might have worked on. She's already written the Batgirl character. She helped develop a feature project based on the all-female crime-fighting group Birds of Prey. So I'm thinking that never got made, although there was a Birds of Prey TV show, which I think this is something separate from that. So I hope it is, because I don't think DC would be... You know what? DC might be willing to hire anyone at this point, but I don't think DC would want to hire anyone that was attached to that particular project. It wasn't exactly a successful show, so... Yeah, I want a Batgirl movie, and hopefully DC can get their shit together for it. I can't really say if this is a good or bad thing just based on her resume, but it's probably better to have a female presence on the script than it is to have a Joss Whedon presence on the script. So at least, if nothing else, I think that's a step in the right direction.
That's fair. Yeah,
we'll see. Maybe we'll get a director announcement shortly if they're really committed to this thing. So stay tuned for some more updates on that. Some more Jason Statham related news, and Dwayne Johnson related news. We did briefly mention Rampage, which he's starring in. They are going to be in a spinoff, a Fast and Furious spinoff, with their two characters, Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw. And it has now found its director, and the director is going to be David Leitch, who is doing the upcoming Deadpool 2. Most recently, he directed Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron, and he was one of the co-directors on the first John Wick.
Ah, okay. It's a pretty good resume.
I think that he's a good fit for this, actually. It's kind of interesting that the Fast and Furious franchise is kind of splintering it in this way. I've heard that there's kind of some friction between The Rock and Vin Diesel, and that might be kind of the reason that they're kind of getting this going. Seems like I think this is supposed to come out before the next Fast and Furious movie, Fast and Furious 64, I think it is. So no, I think that's a good pedigree that fits with this style for the franchise. I think that it's a good fit. I mean, Deadpool 2 looks very over the top. I fully expect this to be probably just as over the top, if not more. But we know he's got the action chops from Atomic Blonde and John Wick, so fuck it. Yeah, this sounds good to me. I'm in on this. The film is rumored to be called Hobbs and Shaw.
That's perfect.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it sounds. I think it sounds on level with the Meg. You know what I'm saying? Just completely ridiculous, over the top fun. That
is an apt comparison. I agree with that. So yeah, I kind of the Meg does seem to be a Fast and Furious kind of situation of, look, we know what we're getting into. Okay,
check your brain at the door, man.
Yeah,
with Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw. I hope it does get called that, and then they can do Two Hobbs, Two Shaw as a sequel.
Maybe we'll make another poster for that.
Yes, we have another campaign. Yes, I love it. I love it. All right, last bit of movie news. Got a few pieces of news, actually, concerning the live-action adaptation of Disney's Mulan. So, 3 new cast members, first of which is Donnie Yen.
Sold.
Who is set to star opposite Liu Yifei, which I'm pretty sure is still how we pronounce her name. And I think that's definitely a good look there. He was recently in Rogue One as Chirrut, and he was great in that. And also he's done, I guess, the Ant-Man movies, so
he knows kung fu.
Yeah, good casting, good presence. I'm liking that. Additionally, Gong Li and Jet Li have both joined the movie. So Gong Li is actually going to be playing the villain in this movie, which is interesting because I guess they're changing it up from the animated movie. So it says that she's going to be playing a powerful witch, so that seems like a pretty big difference. So Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I guess in some ways it's kind of a catch-22 of people might not like, you changing things from the original, but I kind of feel like if you're making a new version of it, then there's no real sense in making the exact same movie over again. You kind of do your own thing. I mean, I guess it could be worse. I'm not saying that it'd be better or worse. It's just, I don't know, try something new. And, that way it kind of differentiates itself a bit from what came before instead of just, I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to see the exact same movie with live action characters. I mean, I'm sure that there's an appeal to that for people, but I think that that's boring to me. I think that, changing up the formula, I think, is the way to go. So, again, could easily be worse, but it might be better. So you never know until it kind of pans out that way. But Jet Li is also joining the cast, and he's going to play the Emperor of China.
That's cool.
So it's fucking Jet Li.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen Jet Li in anything in a while.
No, I thought he retired, but I guess he didn't. So
maybe he's coming out of retirement for this.
Yeah. I don't know. That source material for Mulan's so good, though. I mean, I really enjoyed the, get together and crush the Huns and stuff. I don't know if that was the lyrics from the song, but yeah, I really enjoyed Mulan. I'm excited for a live action, and if they take liberties to change things up, that's always a fun way to do things too. So I'll take it. It's got it looks like it's stacking up quite the cast. I mean, I guess I only know Jet Li and Donnie Yen, but I don't know. I'm excited. I like it.
Yeah. Gong Li, I think she's mostly done Chinese films, but she also has done a few American films. She was in Memoirs of a Geisha in kind of, I think, 2005, Miami Vice with Colin Farrell and is it Jamie Foxx in that? And then Hannibal Rising, which I think was another horror prequel. So sort of, I guess. But it was also shit, so I feel like it's a worthy inclusion to my my argument. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. We got some TV news we want to talk about as well. First of which is just some more details that we've gotten on the Lord of the Rings series that Amazon is working on, and they spent $250 million to secure the rights to, which is a lot of money, and they're not stopping there. They're pumping even more money into this motherfucker because there's a Hollywood Reporter article that basically details that part of the deal was that there's a 5-season commitment to this series, which I mean, that seems unheard of to me. Like, already committing 5 seasons to something. I mean, I get it. It's Lord of the Rings. It's a big fucking deal, but still, most shows you kind of take it one step at a time and hope people like it and hope people watch it. And I guess they're just kind of banking on the fact that, yeah, I mean,
it's Lord of the Rings.
It's Lord of the Rings. It's going to do gangbusters. Yeah, exactly. So 5 seasons. And when you kind of include all of the, other expenses that go into this beyond the actual, purchasing of the rights, casting, producers, VFX, all that stuff, they're expecting the series to cost over $1 billion.
Holy shit. So much money.
Yeah. I think we talked about it before, and Amazon does have the money for it, but that is a lot of fucking money to saddle up in something. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, having really no knowledge of what it's going to be other than that's Lord of the Rings, man. Like, I think that's enough of a selling point, certainly for me, to kind of poke my head in and kind of see what they're up to. But $1 billion, man, that's a good amount of money.
It's crazy. Amazon's crazy, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
You're gonna watch it, right?
Oh yeah, no, they're definitely gonna get my Prime dollars.
That's 2 people. Yeah. So let's do the math on that. How much is an Amazon Prime membership for us? It's like $100, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's $100.
All right, so they got $200 back. Perfect. They're well on their way to recouping their investment.
Jesus.
All right. We got another trailer for Fahrenheit 451, the movie coming to HBO exclusively on May 19th. It is going to premiere. Stars Michael B. Jordan and Michael Shannon, of course, based off of the book, also called Fahrenheit 451. What'd you think about this trailer?
I thought it looked outstanding. This is another show I'll be watching.
Movie.
It's a movie?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. For some reason, I thought it was a show. Definitely a movie I'll be watching then.
It's a TV movie of some, in some respects, because it's exclusive to HBO.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, Michael B. Jordan is such a boss. So I don't know. I'm quickly picking up his. If he's attached to it, I kind of feel the want to kind of watch it. He's kind of one of those people. He's turning into me. What? He's turning into one of those people for me. Mm-hmm. And I like the source material on this too. It's one of the few books I've actually read and thoroughly enjoyed. So I'm all about it.
I am also all about it, and I'm on the Michael B. Jordan train as well. Yeah, definitely. I mean, let's not discount Michael Shannon as well. Also,
that's
incredible
true.
actor.
That's true.
So it's a good combination, definitely. And I think that from the looks of it, it seems like HBO's done a pretty good thing here. So I'm looking forward to it when it premieres. Something I know you're looking forward to is American Gods Season 2, which I am delighted to inform you that it has begun production on its second season.
Very nice. Hopefully there's no more hiccups.
Yeah, I think they've gotten past the hiccups. So I know we've talked about it on the past that the showrunners of the first season departed, Brian Fuller and Michael Green, no longer on the project. They found a new showrunner in Jesse Alexander, whose previous work includes Star Trek Discovery and Hannibal. So that's a pretty good resume there. But it's underway. It's filming again. I still have not watched the first season, but I will. But it's back on. I would expect probably return probably next year if I had to guess, just based on how
late in the year they're starting and all that.
Yeah. So that gives me plenty of time to catch up. That's the good news. But it just means you're waiting a little bit longer. So
that's okay.
There's other things to fill your time, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there you go. CW news. Your favorite.
Woohoo!
And this particular piece of news concerns probably the greatest show on the CW, Arrow. It's not. It's a joke. Everyone laugh. But it is interesting news nonetheless. Colton Haynes, who played Roy Harper, Arsenal, the Red Arrow on the first...
That's What's-Her-Face's boyfriend, right?
Yes, Thea's boyfriend.
Boyfriend, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he's coming back as a series regular. So he was on the first, I believe, 3 seasons, and then he departed. I think he had some personal things he wanted to work through, so he ended up kind of leaving the show. But I guess he's feeling good, and he's ready to come back for it. It's interesting because I don't think you really care about CW spoilers at this point. Is that accurate?
Don't you ruin it for me, man.
I won't. I mean, I can put a pen in it if you want.
No, you're fine. No, go ahead.
Okay, so he actually did come back for, I think, a couple episodes on this 6th season. I haven't gotten there myself yet because I'm behind, but I will eventually. But he came back, and it sounds like, just from what I can tell, that they wrote his character out of the show again.
Oh, my goodness.
But now he's coming back anyway, and I'm like, well, I mean, I know that they don't know what they're doing. I already knew that, but just like... Jesus Christ, what are they really doing over there? But I understand that there's some other changes kind of happening behind the scenes with the show. I think that some of the writers are leaving, and they're probably bringing in some new writers into the fold. So I think that may play a part in this, in the sense that there's some behind the scenes things going on, and they said, let's take it in this direction. So based on how Arrow has been from what I've seen of this current season, probably a good thing to push it in a new direction. That's all I'm going to say about that for now.
Oh, no.
Maybe I can revisit that conversation later in this episode. We will conclude our news this week with a bit of news that we got on the second season of HBO's Westworld. So I'm curious if you had a chance to watch this YouTube video called Westworld Season 2, A Primer.
I think I have.
Okay. So just for our listeners, basically the whole kind of idea behind this is that there was an Ask Me Anything thread on Reddit that Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, the showrunners of Westworld, participated in. And what they said is that, hey, if you guys on Reddit agree, we're going to post a video that lays out the plot, all the twists and turns of season 2, just everything. That way community who wants the season spoiled can watch it ahead, and then they can protect the rest of the community by distinguishing between what's theory and what's spoiler. So basically their whole stipulation is that, hey, if this gets 1,000 upvotes, we're gonna post the video. And of course they got 1,000. They got way more than 1,000 upvotes, and they posted the video. So
I did not watch this, as a matter of fact.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so you don't know what this is.
Right.
All right. Well, do you want the rundown on it?
Yeah, give me the rundown, man. I'll take it. It's cool.
All right. Well, it was the showrunners having a laugh. Let's put it that way. So you know how I might have used a Rickroll joke recently on our April Fool's episode?
Right.
These motherfuckers might have done exactly the same thing.
No.
Yeah. They did it a little bit better, a little bit more effort than I did. But basically what it is there's kind of this, it kind of picks up with Jeffrey Wright's character, Bernard, and he's kind of narrating it. It's kind of like, oh shit, are they actually doing it? Like, are they actually kind of laying out what the season's going on? And he's like, I'm trying to remember what happened. How did they get here? And then it flashes over to Evan Rachel Wood's character, and she starts singing Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. So it's kind of a cover. So it's a little bit more effort. It's got Angela Sarfayan playing the piano for her. She was, I think, the original Clementine in the saloon from the first season. So it's pretty good. It's actually a 30-minute long video, and the cover itself I think only lasts for like a minute or two, and then the rest of it is a black and white video of a dog playing a piano while the Westworld theme plays over it. Which is pretty good. It's a pretty good video. I enjoyed it a lot. I was actually, there was a brief moment in time where I was worried. I'm like, oh fuck, like I don't want to have to dodge Westworld spoilers for like 3 months. Like,
right?
It's gonna fucking suck. So good news is they didn't do that. So they were just having a laugh about it. So
that's awesome.
It's a pretty good joke. It's worth checking out, certainly. If you want to see what it was actually for yourself, it's pretty good. But I do have actual tangible Westworld news that I can tell you about. There's a few new cast members that have joined just ahead of its season 2 premiere, 22nd of April, so it's very close to coming out. Couple I think are pretty notable. Tao Okamoto has joined it. She was in The Wolverine. She was Mercy Graves in Batman v Superman before she was unceremoniously killed by Lex Luthor in his jar of piss in that that Senate hearing scene.
Okay.
And Julia Jones, who played the ex-wife in Wind River. Is
okay.
also joining the cast. And then there's a couple others, Kiki Sukazane and Zahn McLarnon, who I'm not familiar with, but they're going to be in it, so they're worth mentioning. So, like I said, it's coming out April 22nd, back on HBO, 9 p.m., 10 episodes, second season, and I think it's going to be fucking good.
Oh, yes.
My hot take for the day.
No question about it.
All right. Well, I think that about covers it for the news then this week. We can get into the movie that we're covering this week, which is A Quiet Place, directed by John Krasinski. It is written by Brian Woods, Scott Beck, and John Krasinski, and it stars Emily Blunt and, you guessed it, John Krasinski. I'll very briefly touch on what this movie is about because, well, we'll get into it. It's about a family that's forced to live in silence while hiding from creatures that hunt by sound. So that's probably a bit as basic level as I can get with it. And the reason I kind of don't want to get too in depth with this movie just yet is I think this is a movie that you're best off kind of walking in blind as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, we had seen trailers going in, but I thought that the trailers did a pretty good job of not totally telling you everything that happens in this movie, and I think that's for the best. I think that you're really going to have a good time with this movie either way, but I think that if you don't have a whole lot of details on what it is, what it's about, anything like that, I think that that's just going to help enhance the experience overall. So having said that, I would like to hear kind of what your general non-spoiler overall thoughts were for A Quiet Place.
I think this movie is a beautifully shot movie. I think it has an incredible attention to detail. And the sound design, I thought the sound design was creative. And I think that it's well written. It does have a couple problems that I think we can probably talk about in the spoiler section. But they in no way pull me away from the quality of the movie. It's a really fucking good movie, man. Really good. Actually, it's an incredible movie. I really enjoyed it. I went and saw it at the movie theater where you eat the food at the same time over there at the Universal Mall, and I kept dropping food on myself because I couldn't take the time to look away from the screen. So by the time I left, I was covered in buffalo pizza, no, but it's a super good movie. I think probably the most notable thing though that I walked away from was that it was so beautifully shot. It was hats off to those people, because the cinematography in it and just the color palette and the lighting and everything was spectacular. It did a really good job of creating tension. And those child actors, I don't know their names, but the kids, man, the kids, you know, when you center a movie, we talked about this a couple of times, but when you center a project around children, it can go one or two ways very quickly. But these kids were outstanding. They were very, very good. That's another thing. The performances were top notch, man. Just, very believable, very authentic. And they did a really good job of selling the family unit, you know, and living in a situation to where it's not an easy situation to be in, but they're making the best of it, and it's really good. What'd you think about it, man?
I thought it was excellent. I thought, I actually took a little bit of time to see this one, just because I'd been busy with other things, and when I finally did make the time for it, I was kind of mad at myself for not seeing it sooner. It's a really impressive work of art, I would say, and there's a lot of things that went into kind of making this as good as it is. So just to add on to kind of what you had already talked about, I agree that the cinematography in this is beautiful, and that is a credit to the work of Charlotte Bruce Christensen, who's a Danish cinematographer that did this. She's also worked on Molly's Game from last year with Jessica Chastain, Fences with Denzel Washington a couple years ago, and work here is spectacular. The kids that you mentioned, also spectacular. And their names are Millicent Simmons, who plays the daughter, Noah Jupe plays the older son, and Cade Woodward plays the younger son. So they're all really good. And that is such a fine line to walk. I know I've talked about it multiple times on this show about how finding children that are good at acting, it's tough. It can be tough, and often it can make or break your movie. And I think that this movie is probably good enough that it could have worked with kids that were, subpar, but they weren't that at all. They were all wonderful and really, really talented. And the daughter, Millicent Simmons, she's actually deaf in real life too, and Krasinski basically said that it was very important that he cast an actually deaf actress to be a deaf character in this, because not only would it kind of help him with kind of the context for a lot of the movie, but he just wanted it to be, kind of authentic and as accurate with it as possible. And very strong decision. And, out of however many people there are in the world, they found someone that could really deliver on everything I think that he was probably looking for. So, massive credit to her for that. And of course, when we're talking about acting, Emily Blunt and John Krasinski both are fantastic in this movie. I think it's probably easy enough for them to sell the whole family vibe, given that they're married in real life, and I think they have at least one kid together. So certainly kind of them, being into a family unit, that's not too far off reality. So I think that, their chemistry is obviously very natural, and they work together so well that you just immediately buy into this family.
Right. And
beyond them kind of just being a family, they're individually fucking incredible with their performances. I mean, I've been singing the praises of Emily Blunt for probably a while now. Certainly kind of Edge of Tomorrow was probably kind of the big awakening for me of like, oh fuck, she's amazing at this. Sicario as well. And John Krasinski obviously has been going through a bit of a renaissance with his career post The Office. I still call him Jim from The Office because he is Jim from The Office, if we're being entirely honest. But
right.
He's gotten ripped for some movies over the past couple of years. He's doing Jack Ryan, obviously later this year, and he is a very talented actor. And I don't think that his character in The Office really lets him exemplify kind of what he is capable of doing, whereas something like this I think absolutely does. And that's not to discredit something like The Office. Like, he was perfectly cast as Jim there, but I think he's equally perfectly cast in something like this, and it just shows how much range he really has as an actor, and I think it's really impressive. I think it's a really impressive work on the basis of the performances across the board. I think, moreover, the direction in this is also just really, really strong. You have great performances, and a lot of that comes from good direction. And so I think that's also a credit to John Krasinski's abilities here. The sound design, I think you mentioned the sound design. It's vital to this movie. It's something that I think that if you messed that up, then I think that you lose a lot with this movie.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
Because they got it so right, it adds so much to the movie. The tension in this,
cut it with a knife, man.
I'm trying to think of anything we've seen like super recently that has as much tension as something like this. And Get Out's probably the first thing that I go back to, and that's a very different movie. Don't get me wrong; it's tense for a different reason.
Mother had a lot of tension.
Mother is actually that's actually a really good comparison, especially with sound design being so important to it as well. But it's all done so well that it just elevates the entire experience of it. It's a scary movie. And it's still an emotional movie, and it's just a really strong movie. And I was very, 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 very pleased with this. So I think the bulk of kind of what we can talk about more specifically is going to have to stay into our spoiler section, just because, again, if you don't know a whole lot about this movie, just know that you should definitely watch it. And on that note, I guess, unless you have anything else more immediately, do you want to do a recommendation?
Yeah.
All right. So my recommendation is that you should see this in theaters. Hopefully you can find a theater that isn't full of people munching on popcorn and being annoying assholes, because it's a movie that is predicated on the sound design and a lot of silence. And, it's quiet. It's quiet for a lot of the movie. And I think that if you kind of have the ambient noise from the audience kind of distracting you, I think that does this movie a disservice. So I don't know. I had a lucky experience with it. I saw it kind of, I think, like midweek afternoon showing, and the audience was very respectful. I think maybe if you went opening weekend on like a Friday night, you might not have had the same experience. I mean, obviously your mileage may vary. It really just kind of depends, but and there's only so much you control, obviously, for something like that. But if you got a screaming baby in it,
oh my
honestly,
God.
I honestly would say hang out at the theater for a couple hours and wait for the next showing, or get the theater to remove the screaming baby, because you need this movie to be in kind of a pristine environment. I think it's good enough that I wouldn't want people to wait for the Blu-ray on this, because I think it's definitely worth seeing. I think it's worth supporting in theaters, but it is one of those things. I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, obviously you can certainly control your own environment if you're watching it at home, and if that's kind of what you're left to, then sure, absolutely go for it. But I do think that it's something that you should see sooner rather than later. And in this current day and age, that means seeing it in theaters. So what do you think?
I completely agree. I think it's the movie is the reason why I think it benefits so much in a theater setting is because the dynamics and volume. The movie is oftentimes you're leaned into the movie trying to capture everything. You take in as much sound as you can because there's hardly any sound. And then when something does make sound, it's very, it's very startling. I mean, you can hear a pin drop in the theater when it's quiet, but then when something happens on screen, it demands attention, and that tension gets ripped apart. Man, it's brutal. And for that reason, I think that those volume dynamics and everything in a theater setting is definitely the way to go. It's a stellar film. It's really good. and I think you should go see it in theaters. That's my opinion. That's my hot take.
All right, let's jump into spoilers for this then. So, full spoilers for A Quiet Place. So I actually thought we could just kind of run through this movie in chronological order, more or less, because it's pretty short, and I think that might be a good way to kind of cover maybe some of our thoughts. I know you said you had some things that you didn't love about it, or something like that, so maybe we can kind of mention that as we kind of get there.
Yeah.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, so I guess probably the reason I kind of wanted to do that is because the intro to this movie, the first kind of 5 minutes, really sets the stage in a big fucking way, and in a way that I think that the marketing did a good job of concealing. And I think that's kind of what most specifically I was referring to is, we'd seen the scene in the trailer of the kid with the fucking rocket and, makes the noise. And I just figured, they're not going to kill a kid in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I was wrong.
Surprise. Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. Like that kind of tells you what this movie is, doesn't it? That's its mission statement. It says, take everything you know and you leave it at the door, because this is not the movie. This is not, there's probably a million versions of this movie that are generic as fuck, like every other horror movie, or basically every other horror movie in existence. And this one says, no, we're not doing that. That's safe. We're not going to be safe. We're doing things that aren't safe, and no one's going to be safe in this movie. And I think the best thing about it is it creates such, that tension that I was talking about. I think it's created by this first sequence, because after that, my thought is no one is safe. So they're willing to kill anyone at any given point. Like once you start killing kids, anything's on the table. It's kind of how I feel about it. So right? I thought that was such an amazing way to start the movie, and I think it's something that it's a punch in the gut, and it's just like, yeah, okay, we're in for a fucking ride here. I'm well on board with this. I did also want to mention, I thought about mentioning it in non-spoilers, but I decided to hold the thought because I thought it might tip people off about this particular sequence. Mm-hmm. It's very The Last of Us. The whole movie is very The Last of Us, the video game.
Oh, yeah.
But especially this intro sequence. Kind of, it's been long enough since that came out that I don't want to totally spoil people on it, but let's just say that game very similarly begins with this type of gut punch, and then it has that time jump.
The opening sequence is so brutal.
Yeah. So, just the whole feel of this movie, I honestly think, is very similar, especially when you have these creatures that basically operate by sound. That's also very similar to the game, and it's one of the best games I think that came out that year, if not my favorite game that came out this year, or that year that it came out. So, yeah, I think the similarities are pretty apparent, but it's a good thing. Like that's a good thing to be similar to. That's a good thing to be compared to. But
right.
But back to this movie. Did you want to talk about anything in that kind of first opening sequence?
That intro sequence, yeah, man. When that the kid drops the rocket, she catches it, and then they're walking on the sand, and it's all quiet, and then the son of a bitch turns on the ship. You see his dad freak out, and oh man, it was so brutal. That was the first time I dropped pizza on my shirt. Was that time? It was specifically when the monster jumps up and just eats the fuck out of the little kid. I was like, oh no. Yeah, it was and everybody in the theater just went, they all kind of lost their shit. Everybody in the theater did at the same time. It was pretty funny. But yeah, the ridiculous sequence in the beginning there. Nuts.
Yeah. So after that, it goes through a time jump, and I think it's about a year later, and we kind of see that the family, obviously in the wake of losing the youngest in their family, has, moved on, kind of adapted a little bit more to this world. They've got this whole setup with their house. They've got a system kind of in place for, not making noise and surviving. And we kind of see everyone in kind of different stages of their life. The daughter feels a lot of guilt because she was kind of indirectly responsible for getting her brother killed. She gave him the rocket kind of behind behind the parents' back, but the little shit decided to take the batteries, so that's not really her fault. But at the same time, certainly understandable why she would be very guilty or feel very guilty kind of about the whole idea of it. Emily Blunt's character is very pregnant, which seems like a terrible idea. But
that is a terrible idea.
You know, people like to have sex. We can't blame them too much. You know, it's just something that's going to happen. But it certainly complicates things. And, you know, Jim from The Office and his son, you know, they're kind of, like I said, they're just kind of surviving. You know, he's taking him out into the nature to kind of teach him about the world, teach him how to fish and how to survive and, you know, kind of take care of himself and all that good stuff. So,
which brings me to my first plot hole.
Okay.
Why don't you live next to a goddamn river?
Maybe they couldn't find a house right next to the river.
Maybe they couldn't, but you could certainly develop a way to live next to the river so you could make a little noise.
Well, you're probably not going to build anything.
I don't know, man. I think they could probably live next to I think you listen, if there's giant monsters roaming the wilderness that can hear everything you do, but you can make noise next to the river, you can literally scream next to the river. I would be finding a way to live next to the river. Just my own humble opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't think you're wrong, you know, but obviously that's not the decision they made. I don't think that's necessarily a plot hole. I think it's just, you know, I mean, I think that it's kind of, I think that whole idea is certainly in there, at least if nothing else, to explain how the mom is pregnant again. Because methinks someone had some fun, happy time behind a waterfall, but, you know. Yeah, so that's kind of where things are. I said I don't disagree with kind of what you're talking about there, but it's just the way this movie is, man. It's just, you know, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in surviving in this movie?
True.
You know,
that's what I'm saying.
Conflicts.
It doesn't detract, but
so we do run into some conflict. So as Jim and his son are away, mom starts going into labor. And, you know, as she's kind of working her way down, so, you know, they've got this whole system in place to kind of, you know, take care of, you know, the birth and all that stuff. She goes down and things kind of go sideways when she steps on a nail that has been exposed on one of the steps. It's kind of hard to not take a nail through your foot and make no noise. So things start kind of going off, you know, in a pretty big way. She's, you know, she makes noise, which just obviously immediately attracts the attention of the creatures nearby. And she kind of has the system set up to flick on these red lights that they have kind of set up around the farm that they have to alert, you know, say, hey, get over here. I need your help.
Right.
And so we get this whole sequence where she's kind of working her way to the bathtub and she's, you know, trying to, you know, keep her shit together as much as possible. As someone that has not experienced childbirth for obvious reasons, I understand that is an extremely painful process, especially when you're probably in a scenario here where I don't think she's taking any medications or anything to kind of help with that. Yeah, I don't think, you know, giving birth without making any sounds, that sounds like probably one of the worst things in the world.
That sounds pretty awful. Yeah.
So that sequence is kind of pretty tense, you know, just because it's one of those things of, I mean, if she makes a peep, the creature's already kind of in her immediate vicinity. Like, not only is she gone, but that you know, the baby's gone too. And that, I mean, it's the same thing that happened in the intro scene, because I'm like, if they can kill a kid, they can kill a pregnant woman too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, I'm ready for anything at this point. But they do have this pretty elaborate system of the fireworks that, you know, Jim sends his kid off, you know, shoot these fireworks to make some, you know, loud ass noises in the sky to draw away the creatures from Emily Blunt. So when that does happen, which is a fantastic sequence for the record, she does give birth. You know, she finally cuts loose. You know, she screams now that she's got kind of the comfort of the noises in the sky to kind of drown out her screams, and she gives birth. So pretty big things happening here. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, super tense. She stepped on that nail, and I cringed. And
yeah, and the nail was still kind of present throughout the rest of the movies. Anytime they like go up the stairs,
they're gonna step on the fucking nail.
I'm like, someone's gonna step on the nail. There was a time where I'm like, maybe the creature will step on the nail. Like, that'd be kind of fun. See what happens then. Probably lose its fucking shit.
Right.
But that doesn't happen. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then once she has the kid, she gets reunited with Jim. Jim comes home, finds her, I think in like a shower or something like that. And they take this kid into this basement that they've kind of carefully constructed. Like, and there was a moment where I'm like, what are they doing with that kid? Because, again, it's another one of those things of, okay, babies make a lot of noise, you know, and that's just their nature. There's nothing you can do about that. And that is something that will instantly get you killed with the rules of kind of this universe that, you know, the way they've been set up. So it's like, what do you do with the kid?
They put the baby in the box.
They put the baby in the box, and I'm like, oh my God, are they going to suffocate the baby? Like, do they, like, because, like, it's a fucked up thing to think about, but there is a very real possibility that having that kid around you for a day or two is a good way to get yourself killed.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
But they do have a pretty inventive solution in place, and one that's not so morbid. And, you know, like I said, I was like, oh my God, they might kill the kid. What are they going to do here? Anything was on the table for me, but, you know, they have this kind of contraption to basically, you know, it's a coffin of sorts for the, you know, the baby, but it's, you know, they have a little oxygen kind of breathing tube that they have kind of fed into it. So certainly no way to raise a child, but given the circumstances, that's the best they could come up with, you know?
Yeah, it was. I laughed when she put the baby in the box. Oh shit, she put a baby in a box.
I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? So yeah, they kind of take care of that, but then, you know, shit goes sideways pretty quick. The basement starts getting flooded because the creature's been losing its shit and, you know, breaking shit, you know, kind of in the upstairs part of it. And so she has to kind of way to take care of the baby, you know, outside of the comfort of that whole basement scenario that she's concocted. But meanwhile, the kids, the daughter was away, kind of where her
little dumbass
died.
ran into the cornfield.
Yeah, and then the son, he panics, and yeah, they kind of basically find themselves stuck on a grain silo, and kind of just waiting for, you know, help. You know, they're kids. You know, they can take care of themselves to some degree, but I don't think they're exactly well prepared to fend off an entire, you know, attack from creatures that hunt by sound. Like, that's a pretty fucked situation to be in. So they get kind of stuck there, and then there's like a moment where they actually get pulled under the grain, and, you know, and almost suffocate. I'm like, Jesus, like, this is a fucking dark movie. Like,
suffocation by quick corn. It's quick corn.
Yeah, like that's crazy. But of course they do find a way to kind of survive, and then they're reunited with Jim. You know, Jim comes up and says hi, which I guess, you know, comes up after basically the daughter. She realizes kind of that these cochlear implants that she has, when she kind of uses them, it repels the creature. You know, I guess there's something within that, the kind of sound that.
The frequency fucks them up.
Exactly. So that's obviously a pretty big plot development there. But, you know, they get reunited with Jim, and then Jim comes up and says, you know, we need to get back. I mean, he doesn't say it because that would be a good way to die. But, you know, they try to work their way back to the mom and the baby, and they get kind of stuck in a situation where it's no longer really feasible. You know, there's a creature kind of attacking the kids in the truck. And Jim, you know, he kind of knows what he needs to do, and he shouts to kind of draw the attention away, sacrifices himself to let the kids basically escape down the hill in the truck to go back to the mom and the baby. Which, man, it's a moment that got me, you know.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely hit you right in the feels there. That was pretty sad moment. You know, he does the, you know, I love you, I've always loved you. Mm-hmm. And that was the end of Jim. It's pretty sad, but Mama ends it in a big badass way.
She does. Do you want to tell the tale?
Yeah. So you know, all the kids are in the house. They're all in the basement, which I saw an Easter egg, and I don't know if this is. I think it might have been an Easter egg or not. I don't know. But on one of the newspaper headings in the basement where he worked, he had a newspaper clipping that said "Angels of Death." Isn't that what they called her character in Live, Die, Repeat? I
think she was the Angel of Verdun and the Full Metal Bitch. I think
okay, those are the two. So okay,
it was close. Yeah.
Either way, that's another moment that got me is when the daughter goes into her father's basement or his workstation or the man cave or whatever it is you want to call it, and she can see all of the implants that he's been working on. She cries, and it was really sad. But then the creature goes into the basement, and everybody's freaking out. And then the daughter quickly realizes that her implant can emit a frequency that causes all sorts of problems with the monster. So she mics it, and the monster essentially, like, it starts melting his brain. But then it doesn't die. It gets back up, and Mama shoots him in the head. Boom, explodes his brains all over the basement. Well, of course, naturally, all of the monsters in the surrounding area hear that gunshot, and he's got like a system of cameras inside this basement, and you can see these creatures running through the cornfields and running past these cameras, and they're all coming to the basement. And then she loads that shotgun, looks at her daughter, and just pumps the shotgun, and that was it. And it was pretty badass. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to end it, because I was worried, because I was just like, how do you end this movie in like a satisfying way?
It was definitely satisfying.
It was. It was a good way to kind of leave it, because I was just like, well, I don't think this family is gonna, eradicate all these creatures from the earth. So it's like, okay, I don't think that's the end game here. Does everyone die? Does everyone die except for one? How does it happen? I was just like, how do you end this movie in a satisfying manner? And I think they came up with something that still leaves you, I think, wanting more. But I think that, when they kind of, fade to black right then, or cut to black, I was just like, good. I like that. I think that's a strong way to end it. That's a good fucking note to leave it on.
Yeah.
So I was really happy with that. I said that was something that I was a little kind of, thinking about halfway through the movie of like, okay, where exactly is this leading to? How do we make this end, as strongly as it started? And I think that they did it, which, given the way it started, I think is pretty, that's pretty ridiculous in its own way. So
I got a question though.
Yeah,
the creatures seem relatively easy to bait. You think that they would? You think that like a government or somebody would bait these creatures and shoot them or blow them up or whatever? Like, I don't know. I guess maybe the shell. Maybe they're. I know there was a reference to hey, listen, they have armor. How do you kill them? What's their weakness? So maybe that's the justification for that. But
I think that's exactly it. I think the exactly justification is that they don't know how to kill them. They can't pierce their hide, and basically, they can set up traps to kind of lure them away. But I think that that's kind of the whole idea, is that they don't know how to actually kill them. And I think that that's kind of probably why they are stuck in the situation they are. Why what you're talking about hasn't happened. Like, again, it's a different movie if they kind of pull it in that direction, but I think that's at least somewhat justified in a universe of kind of why that's the case, and why it's such a big fucking deal, when she realizes the frequencies are what kind of fuck them up. And that's kind of why it leaves. I think that's why the movie leaves on the note, because it leaves you on that note of, oh shit, now they kind of know the secret to doing this. Obviously don't see what happens after that, but it's a pretty big, development, obviously. So
right.
It's kind of my take on it. But on the subject of the creatures, what do you think about their design?
Oh, I thought they were fucking cool. I thought they were awesome looking. Praying mantis kind of leg deals, they're a little fast and head full of teeth. I think it's cool. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I thought they looked really cool. I kind of liked, especially at the end there, when it's exposed to that frequency, and everyth's kind of peeling out from its face. I thought that was fucking cool looking. I thought the effects work on it was good. And yeah, I think everything about this was just really, really well done. So
did you hear where this movie was going to be? And I thought it would have been a good fit.
Cloverfield movie.
Yeah,
I did hear that. Yeah, certainly would have been a better Cloverfield movie than Cloverfield Paradox turned out to be.
Yeah.
I did hear that. Yeah. It's obviously just as well that it wasn't.
Sure, it operates on its own.
I do definitely agree that. Yeah, like I think that they could have pretty easily integrated this as part of the universe, but. Yeah, it didn't need it, obviously. So, it would have been a cool thing, but we've already got 2 Cloverfield movies coming out this year. So I guess one's already out, but we still got Overlord coming out later this year. So,
what is that?
It's the World War II one.
Oh yeah. Okay, all right.
So, I mean, that's kind of pretty much all I have really to say about it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
It's definitely worth seeing. A lot of those, it's a tense, effective, scary movie, and the sound design is great. And it doesn't take the whole Mother approach of having no score. I think Marco Beltrami did the score for this, and I seem to recall liking the score when they did use it. And I think that they used it sparingly enough that it was effective, to kind of heighten the atmosphere in a lot of the scenes where it happens. But there's not a lot of dialogue in this movie. You've got, it's probably 15 minutes before we hear anyone speak in the movie,
yes.
Kind of at the beginning of it. Like that's another way to kind of really set the stage and, set the tone for your movie when it begins. So fucking yeah, man, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Do you want a sequel to it? That's my question.
Do I want a sequel? You know what I think would be cool is I think it would be cool to take this movie that was so emotionally charged and is set as a suspense horror movie. And I think it'd be cool to have a sequel to where it's where it's almost not lived I repeat, but it's now we potentially have the upper hand. You know what I mean? Or gaining, we're gonna retake what's ours. Blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? I think it'd be cool to kind of change the tone of the movie for a sequel. I think that would be. Yeah, cool.
I agree. You keep the universe, maybe do a little bit of a time jump. And you pick it up as, with kind of a different genre. You do an Alien to Aliens type thing, maybe.
Right. I think that would be fucking cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would absolutely be the way I would take it. I mean, obviously, I'm never going to say no to having more Emily Blunt, but I think that you could definitely pull this in a bigger scope, and I think that it could work.
Definitely.
So, yeah. All right, I agree. I think that's a good call. That's pretty much it then for A Quiet Place. I did want to mention, since we liked this movie so much, that John Krasinski, Jim from The Office, has lined up his next project that he's going to be directing, and it's called Life on Mars, which is it's going to be another horror movie. It's going to adapt a short story that centers on a woman who is among a handful of descendants of a Martian colony long abandoned by Earth following a cataclysm. And one day she finds she can breathe the air on Mars, which upends her world and that of her fellow colonists. So,
that sounds strange.
I like Mars.
Yeah.
Mars sounds cool. So, good on you. I'm going to watch anything that dude does now. So,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a good place to call it and get into what we've been up to lately. So, we'll let you begin. What have you been up to lately?
So I watched a movie called Spring.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. It's more of an indie romance horror movie. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Definitely different. And I watched a movie by the same director. I think two people directed Spring, and one of the pair directed a movie before that called Resolution. And that movie was it was a strange movie. I enjoyed it well enough, but it was just weird. It was a weird movie. But I enjoy weird shit like that sometimes. So, yeah, I enjoyed both of those movies. If you're into the indie film scene and you want to watch something off the wall and kind of off the beaten path and kind of strange, both of those movies will scratch that itch. I also began watching Lost in Space.
Okay.
Started watching that. I'll leave comments for that for a later time. And what else have I been doing? I want to say that's probably about it. I watched those two movies, and I know I watched something else. I'm going to end up interrupting you because it's going to come to my head. But yeah, no. What have you been up to, man?
Well, I would like to bring back my famous segment called the CW Power Rankings. I think last time we recorded, I mentioned that it might be coming back, and I wasn't lying, baby. It's back. So this is through week 9, which was the mid-season finales of all the CW shows that aired back in like mid-December. So I'm still very behind, as I mentioned. But I am kind of treating this somewhat as a soft reset because it's been so long, even since I watched the episodes that came before this, and I'm just like, I don't really know what's going on anymore. I mean, I'm just going for the ride at this point. I will say, having taken some time off and going back, I kind of enjoyed a lot of them. Like, they're still not great, most of them, but I did enjoy it more. It felt like less of a chore. I was just kind of like, let me go back and just give these a whirl and see how they are. So I enjoyed them. But my power rankings as of week 9 starts with Legends of Tomorrow at the top because it is far and away the best show currently on the CW, at least as of week 9. It is, I mean, it's to me the show that handles the characters the best. It's consistently fun, consistently goofy, and it's a show that knows exactly what it is and achieves pretty much everything it sets out to do. So it is, I would put it several echelons above everything that comes after it. But what comes after it for me right now is Supergirl, which I thought, just from that episode that I watched, was pretty good. Supergirl comes up against a pretty big threat in Reign, and they have a little girl-on-girl showdown. She gets her ass kicked, and I was just like, this is a cool way to kind of, take your show out on the break with, the hero kind of getting defeated temporarily, I assume. But I thought it was good. It was good fun. I like the cast of Supergirl. I like Melissa Benoist a lot. So, yeah, Supergirl's number 2 for me. Arrow's at number 3 right now. I think that from what I'm seeing, it may drop further as we're going. Basically, they've decided to do their own version of Civil War for some reason. So right now, it's the original Team Arrow of Green Arrow, Diggle, and Felicity versus the new Team Arrow, which is the New Canary, Wild Dog, and Mr. Terrific. Whatever. But it's silly because I'm like, I don't really care about these new guys. I mean, I don't like Felicity either, and Diggle kind of sucks right now as a character, but I like the Arrow. I don't really care about it. Like, I don't care. Like, this is such an artificial CW drama thing that I'm like, look, guys, like, no. Just because you don't have a villain that can really pull everything together, like, pitting heroes versus heroes works if you have a story that supports it, and they don't have that. So I suspect this might drop in the rankings as we move along. As I move along, I'm not expecting a we in this, but Riverdale comes in at number 4. Look, I enjoy Riverdale, but it's starting to get a little too silly for my liking at times. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's fun. Don't get me wrong, but it's out there, man. It's out there. And last but not least is The Flash, which I just cannot get into this season. It is just doing absolutely nothing for me. All the characters on it are kind of shitty. The villain is super fucking lame.
Who's the villain for this season?
That's the Thinker. His superpower is that he's really smart. And he flies around in like a chair, like a chair, and he flies around on it with really bad looking CG, and he like flies around the city in it. I'm like, this is no good. This is no good, guys.
CW, don't you ever fucking change.
But I will say that it did end on a pretty good note. Basically, he frames Barry for his murder. And I thought, okay, that's a good hook, to kind of see what happens next. So we'll see how they handle that. I imagine, given the usual Flash thing of, hey, we're going to do Flashpoint. JK, it's over in 30 minutes. I'm expecting him to be in prison for 30 minutes and then everything's fine. I hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. In terms of other things I've been watching, I did watch The Ritual on Netflix, which I know
what'd you think about that, dude?
A while back. I had a good time with it. I thought that the creature design in it was really strong, and I liked kind of the whole feel of the movie. I think it's worth checking out. It's definitely, I would say, probably one of the better things Netflix has done as far as kind of their original content, at least in terms of movies. Seems like they've had a pretty rough go of it with their movies. And
yeah, listen,
TV shows have been kind of where they've been at. So
Beast of No Nation is ridiculously fucking good.
Yeah, but how many years ago did that come
out? That's a while ago. I understand.
I think their whole thing is we just pump money into everything, and so I think that you get some Beasts of No Nation kind of in there among the pack, but I think that you get a lot of things that aren't so good either. So you take the good and you take the bad, and I thought that this leaned more towards the former. So sure. I had a good time with it. In terms of things that I've been listening to, which I realize maybe doesn't totally fall in the scope of what we've been watching, but it will sort of count. I've been listening to Underoath's latest record called Erase Me. It's the first album they've put out in 8 years.
Wow.
Pretty big deal. They broke up in 2013. I actually went to their last show that they did in St. Pete, Florida, which was fucking awesome. And then they, took some time off and said, hey, we want to do this thing again. And they actually came back together as a band only a few years later. And I caught them on tour again when they kind of did their reunion tour. Actually saw 2 of their shows, did a meet and greet with them in Orlando, got a poster signed by all the members of the band, which I currently have on one of my walls in my place. And I love Underoath. They're one of my favorite bands. So, they say they're putting out this new album. Fuck yeah, I'm all over it. So they put it out. I've listened to it many times at this point. It's not my favorite work they've ever done, but it's a very different Underoath. It's a little bit more structured, a little bit more refined, a little bit more produced, and it's got a lot of good stuff on it. But it's just kind of a different vibe and feel for them, and I think that they've kind of alienated a lot of old listeners of their stuff. They used to very heavily identify as a Christian metal band, and they don't identify as Christian anymore, so that's kind of a big deal. They use some naughty language on some of their songs, which people weren't loving either. But I like it. I think it's good. Like I said, I don't think it's my favorite, but it, as with music, a lot of it, you kind of have to listen to it a lot and let it sink in, and then give it some time and see how you are, see how it kind of reflects, over time. So I'm digging it. They also put out a documentary that was like a making of documentary of the album called Get Over It, which it's titled that way for a reason. And that was really good. It was a nice kind of look at the making of, the behind-the-scenes work that went in on it, and gives a little bit more insight, kind of the development and writing process for a few of the songs on the record. So I'm liking it. I think if you like Underoath, if you like that genre, certainly it's something worth giving a spin. I don't think it's going to convince anyone that doesn't like them before to listen to them, and that's totally fine. But I think I like it. It's actually one of the few albums I'd say that the back half of the album I would feel is much stronger than the first half of the album. There's a 1, 2, 3 punch to the last 3 songs on the record of No Frame, In Motion, and Gave Up. And I think that those are probably the 3 strongest songs on the record, in my opinion. So that's me. That's me in this week. Did you remember anything? Are you?
I did.
Okay.
I watched a movie called A Dark Song, which is about it's about some dark rituals and some magic and shit, and I can't comment on it fully because I was fighting sleep.
Okay.
But it started out. I thought it started out really intriguing and cool, and I enjoyed the score, and I thought the cinematography was creative. And then I like I said, I was kind of battling sleep, and then I woke up for like the last 10 minutes. I probably had like a 15-minute lapse, and shit got really, really weird in that 15 minutes, and I'm not quite sure what happened. But I'm probably going to say it was probably because when shit got really weird, and I know it was out of context, but the quality of what was going on was definitely not how the first half was. So I'm not going to say it was great. But it was interesting for the first hour and a half. So I don't know. I thought it was okay, but I did watch that, and that's called A Dark Song, and I streamed that on the Netflix. So that's what I've been up to, man.
All right. Well, you heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
All right. I think that will do it then. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. You can, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, find us on Patreon at watchreviewrepeat.com and go to the premium tab on that, or you can just go directly to Patreon, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. So you'll get access to all of our episodes early. You'll get all of our bonus episodes, and it's certainly going to be worth your while to do that now because, again, Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 3 is probably up by the time this goes out. So if you're interested in kind of hearing that third part in our series of Marvel Cinematic Universe episodes, that is absolutely the way to go. Again, our website is watchreviewrepeat.com. You've got links to all of our episodes, all of our socials, so Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. We're at WRRPod on Twitter, and you can send us any questions, comments, suggestions to our Gmail account, which is watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod. incompetech.com. Then it's licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And our next episode is not going to be Rampage. There was a brief moment in time where we said, yeah, we're going to do Rampage. We're just not feeling it.
No.
And something else came out in wide release that we are feeling, and that's Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs. So that's going to be our next episode we're working on. Andrew has seen it. I have not. I am very much looking forward to seeing it before we record, because I think that it's going to be pretty good.
I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean... Let's say don't maybe hold your overall thoughts, and then we'll get into it on our next episode. So that will conclude this episode of Watch Review Repeat. Thank you guys again. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, day, night, whatever the case may be, and we'll catch you next time.
Adios.